Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're here and ready for another episode of the Racing Debrief. And this week we had some crazy racing. Just all around a brilliant week. I think there's been a few weeks this year that have been like disappointing between NASCAR and Formula One at the same like weekends. But I mean, this week has been absolutely brilliant. I think coming off the last time we had the Racing Debrief with F1 and NASCAR it was Charlotte. So we had Charlotte and Monaco. And it was a very hype day that led into not an exciting day. But this time, we had a brilliant weekend overall. So let's start with Formula One. Started with qualifying, which I wasn't home to watch it on Saturday. But I had opened my phone. I was... I don't know, I was somewhere, maybe lunch, something like that. Open my phone and I see tie for pole. Tied position. That's insane. I mean, we haven't seen that since 1997. Definitely wish that I had watched that qualifying session, seeing that. But overall, really crazy with George Russell and Max Verstappen tying for pole. George Russell got the pole with the fact that he set the time first. But yeah, just crazy there. Checo once again disappointing. As he has been, qualifying 16th. I'm just surprised Red Bull re-signed him, to be fair. I know he brings sponsorship and a lot of money, but Red Bull has Bybit and Oracle putting in a shit ton of money. I mean, that Oracle deal's $500 million. Like, I think they're good, but yeah, I don't know. I would have picked somebody else. I mean, you got Yuki Tsunoda killing it. Daniel Ricciardo has moments. I think Checo hasn't. So, disappointing there. We'll get back to Checo in a few minutes. But, yeah, just disappointment to see him qualify where he did. The race itself, it was going to be wild. It was raining. I mean, it's been raining all day here, and Canada's the closest Formula One track to me. I mean, it's not that far. So, rain that happens in Montreal, there's a potential of a big enough storm. I'll be seeing it where I'm, where I live, right? It's not the furthest away. It's probably like, few hundred miles, right? I mean, it's not the furthest. I think if it was a NASCAR track, it would be the second closest. So, I mean, it's right there, right? So, they get big enough storms. I mean, we had rain throughout the day. This morning definitely was rainy. So, seeing that, it's always going to provide some excitement. So, the race starts in the rain is wild because they're so slow. There's no dry line or anything. Everybody gets through pretty clean, though. And the two Haas cars have put on full wets, and they're flying through the field. I mean, Magnussen got up to fourth. Like, he was passing everybody by the time that he got to fourth. The track started to dry up. And, I mean, he could have been in a great spot when he switched to intermediates, but Haas kind of threw that pit stop for him. After that, the race had action because you were seeing the track drying, so people were going to work on strategies. You got to cool the tires. But there's also a thought of more rain coming, which did come. So if you're going to pit, you don't want to go to soft tires or the slick tires because then it would rain. So you had to kind of just manage. Eventually, it did go to a point where you could use slick tires. You've seen safety car put most people in that spot where they could switch tires. Safety car for Logan Sargent spinning. He hit the wall and was out. So he was the first driver to retire from the race. But from there, Max Verstappen got to the lead. Lando Norris had it as he was able to pass George Russell. So Max getting back to the lead through a safety car is, evens out what happened in Miami, for sure. So that's good to see. But, yeah. From there, you had another crash. Checo hit the wall, spun out. He's going through, putting debris on the track. And then Carlos Sainz spins, collects Albon. They're both out of the race. Right before them going out of the race, you had Charles Leclerc, who had engine issues, so they were able to reset the engine, but Ferrari, with their Ferrari Masterclass, decided to send him out on slick tires right before the track was really ready. So they're like, oh, it's going to be 2 laps, and it was not. He was at 1.18 seconds behind Verstappen a lap. So he was falling back significantly. He ended up getting lapped, and they just retired the car from there. But, yeah, not a great race for Ferrari. Not a great race for Williams, and not a great race for Checo. So all of them, going out of the race. Towards the end of the race, you had George Russell making his insane moves, almost crashing with Oscar Piastri, almost taking out Lewis Hamilton within 2 laps. So he's he's definitely a weapon on the track and can put himself in these positions. I think that he gets a little too aggressive when he's in potential point scoring spots. So yeah, just overall not the smartest move. But in the end, he did get a podium out of it, so I guess that's what you're there for. So I guess it worked out. But yeah, just an overall crazy race. I think the rain races add some strategy, add some interesting elements that you don't see. I mean, I think that F1 in general gets very much of a parade, right? It's very much go around the track, and that's it, right? You go around the track, have a few laps, everybody kind of stays on the line, and unless something crazy happens, you don't really get much movement. But I mean, when you get the rain races, involves a little bit of chaos, guys spinning out, going through the grass. Just a lot more interest there, right? When do you change between the dry and the soft tires? The message of my brother about it, and I thought, what if there was a set number? You had to have a set number of rain races per season, right? Because there's obviously been talk about putting sprinklers on the tracks throughout different years. That's kind of been a discussion. So what if you had to have a certain amount of rain races or wet races, right? You had to have 5 or 6 in a season, but it can go between being natural or artificial. So if you get 5 natural rain races, you're good. But if you only get 2, flip a switch, get some sprinklers out there. Don't tell the teams necessarily where you're going to do it. Do it at logical places, right? Don't do it at tracks that is super long or a track in a desert, because it doesn't make sense. But have specific locations where you maybe set a rain race. I don't think it's a terrible idea. Personally, I'm going to say it. I think that's what we should, consider doing maybe. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for sure. But, yeah, brilliant race overall in Canada. So, moving on for NASCAR. The Xfinity Series and Cup Series were in Sonoma for the final Fox races of the year. And for Xfinity, the final Fox race maybe ever. But Xfinity race will start with that. Shane Van Gisbergen gets the win. His 3rd win in NASCAR and his 2nd win in the Xfinity Series. Of course, last year he won the Cup Series in Chicago on the streets, which kind of put the, his move in motion to even come to NASCAR. So, got that going for him. Of course, he won Portland last week and now Sonoma. So 2 races in the Xfinity Series. He's got some good playoff points. I believe he should have 11 now. So he's in a good spot going forward to the playoffs. Of course, there are, 2 more races that are road courses for the Xfinity Series? Let's say do one more. Do they do Mid-Ohio, or is that trucks now? I think it's trucks. So I think they have Watkins Glen and the Roval. So he's got a shot to maybe get another win or 2 on that. And I think the ovals hasn't been terrible. I don't think he's been the worst. So I think there's potential there. But yeah, that's that. The other race though, it wasn't purely clear sailing for him. I mean, he had a pole. Ty Gibbs was close though throughout the race. Shane Van Gisbergen does win stage 1. Ty Gibbs came out and won stage 2. Now, that's where things got a little wild, was Ty Gibbs winning that stage. Personally, I don't know why his team decided to have him stay out. Ty Gibbs doesn't need the stage points. It doesn't matter for him, right? He's not going for stage wins, not in that series. So why he didn't pit, I don't know. But Either way, by not pitting, that put him in a spot that he was way back in the field, and we had a big crash. Ty Gibbs was involved in it, so that took out one of the dominant cars. Just overall, insane. I mean, you don't typically see big pileups on road courses, but you had 10, 15 cars involved in it. So that was overall very, very wild to see. And then from there, again, after that happened, it was pretty much just clear sailing. Shane Van Gisbergen kind of, I think he had to work his way up. I think he might have been fourth at that time, but, worked his way past the guys in front of him pretty easy and went on to win the race. I ended up seeing him later. There was a stat where he had 0 cars overtake him during the race at all. Nobody passed him. So, pretty impressive in that aspect on the road courses. So, Shane Van Gisbergen pulling up, winning that race. Super, super cool. He's definitely one of the drivers that I like in the Xfinity Series, so it's cool to see him win that. So that's fun. It's cool to at least see a driver you like win a race in another series in NASCAR. I mean, it's been a while in the Cup Series, but NASCAR Xfinity Series, having somebody like win that's pretty cool. So, I mean, there's obviously drivers I like in the Cup Series. I mean, Kyle Larson's one of my favorite drivers in that, but number one favorite. I don't really know who number one favorite is in Xfinity. I just kind of like some drivers, but Shane Van Gisbergen is definitely up there. So, cool to see him win the last 2 weeks. Go to the Cup Series now at Sonoma, and that race was insane. There ended up being 8 cautions. Of course, 2 of those were for stages. So, 6 cautions for an incident on the track. Very, very wild. So, the first incident, you had Denny Hamlin right at the start of the race, lap 2. Engine blown. Now, you don't typically see blown engines. It's kind of wild. It's very rare. I've noticed typically it's Toyotas. They do have a blown engine, so that's a little interesting. I mean, next-gen car, last really blown engine smoke out the pipes I could remember is Kyle Busch in 2022 in the playoffs. I believe that was Darlington. That's really the last time I could think of. He had 2 engine failures in the first 3 races in the playoffs, so he was out. Christopher Bell had some issue with his engine, but it wasn't necessarily in smoke out the pipes. But he had that last week at Gateway. Of course, Denny Hamlin this week. So that was the first caution. You had Martin Truex spin out. That wasn't a caution, but he spun through the grass. A lot of guys going through the grass. Austin Cindric went through there. He almost flipped at one point. That was crazy. Ty Gibbs was the second caution. He hit the inside walls, turn 11 just barely, got his tire messed up, and then he hit the barriers later on after the start line. So he was the next driver out. From there was just a lot of big crashes. I mean, you had the hairpin. Josh Berry got pushed into there by Eric Jones hit him. That sent him forward a little bit. Him in a block on Jones got sent forward. Big crash there. Michael McDowell, Noah Gragson, both went crashing through one spot into a barrier, so you had them. A little bit before that, Joey Logano was involved in one of the crashes. I forget who else was in it, but a bunch of those other guys got torn up in it, so there was that. That was most of your cautions right there. All very, very quick. I mean, again, a lot of other incidents of guys spinning off the track or going through the grass that weren't cautions, but those were like the cautions of the race, and it was super crazy. Then all of a sudden, stage 2 ends, no caution the rest of the race. So very weird. The first two stages very much cautions, very, very many. I mean, Fox had a little graphic up there that they show cautions and green flags, and there was so much yellow those first 2 stages. But goddamn, I was in water. There was really nothing after that though. So go through the whole rest of the race, and it really does become a strategy race of when do you pit, how long do you go. You really had 2 separate strategies, but again, both pitting, once was required in that portion of the race. So you had Truex and Buescher, they pit a little earlier, and they were set up to finish. Kyle Larson was way ahead. I think he had 15 lap fresher tires, and that put him in a spot that he was able to go up there. Buescher was really struggling a little bit, and that held up Truex, who was a little faster. And then from there, Kyle Larson was able to catch him, pass them both almost immediately. Once they made one little mistake, Buescher messed up. That let Truex and Larson by. And then right after that, Larson was able to get by Truex. I think it was only like 2 or 3 laps he was held up behind them. And then after that, we had Fox's last ad break. Of course, that had to be with 8 laps to go. So the last 5 laps, they were back. But yeah, from there, Kyle Larson's pretty much gone. Martin Truex ran out of fuel right at the very end. And yeah, you also had Kyle Busch, who maybe got spun by Ross Chastain. I have no idea because Fox didn't show a replay. They just went to show the whatever, some spring football that nobody gives a shit about. Yeah, let's watch guys that didn't make the NFL play instead of showing some replays from the event you were just watching. But either way, yeah, it was the end of the race. Again, I don't know, did Kyle Busch spin out or did he get helped by Ross Chastain? Who knows? But yeah, that's that. So again, this is the final race that's on Fox for the year. So I think it's obviously a positive thing. Fox has definitely decreased. 5-6 years ago, Fox was the main, the top broadcast. I always liked Fox more than NBC, but I feel like it's definitely switched the last few years. I mean, the production quality. I think that the broadcast booth, obviously, for Fox is pretty good. I mean, Mike Joy's all-time great commentator, even if he's not at his peak. He was 5-10 years ago. I think that he's still awesome. I really like his insight and knowledge into just historical things in general. That's very interesting to me. So to see that's cool. I think Kevin Harvick did brilliant in his first year. Kevin Harvick going into the announcing was very exciting. Obviously, he's my all-time favorite NASCAR driver, so to have half the year he's on there is very cool. But yeah, I knew he'd do good at it. I mean, he was probably the best of all the current drivers that were racing when Fox would have guys go on to the Xfinity Series. I think he was the best commentator of current drivers that they had. So, him going in that spot fit really, really well. Way better than last year. You had random guys every week. And then Clint Bowyer, I think, got a little bit better. I think he was definitely more annoying. But when he doesn't have to be in that role where he's the second guy, right? I think that's beneficial to have him more in that role where he can be a little bit more the personality and not the guy that has to talk about the racing, which I think he's obviously good at. But I think not having to be the serious guy, right? Because you have one guy who's a little bit more jokey, and obviously that fits his role. So when he's trying to be that, but also be the serious guy, because he's the only other, full-time commentator, I think was a little harder. But having him in that role as the third guy, I think is brilliant. Obviously, him and Kevin Harvick being teammates for many years at Richard Childress Racing and Stuart Haas Racing, I think went very, very well. But besides them, the production is not great. I think that you definitely have a lot of moments when they cut to random things. Whoever's directing it loves to show the kids in the grandstand, which is very wild. I think here and there you're like, oh, there's a fan, look at this kid's excited about his driver. But there's a lot of cutting to children in the grandstands, which is a bit weird, for sure. So I don't know. They do that a lot, and it's very strange. And last week we had a live shot and then a replay of a kid in the grandstands. Why? Why is that a thing? Why are you doing that? So yeah, I think that's a problem. And I do think that there's a lot of other, things. I mean, graphics are always wrong. They're wrong. I mean, the scoreboard's always glitching out. The camera work is solid, but you got a lot of zoom-in shots. Again, people talk about that. kind of miss a lot of stuff. I mean, the commentators are trying to talk about something over here, and the camera shot's over here. So, hopefully they can fix that. Again, maybe with them doing less races, hopefully they can say, let's put more focus into it for these few weeks. Next year they're going to only have, 10 races? Now they have like 15. I think it's something like that. So hopefully with it they can put more focus into those few races. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully all the criticism they received online will maybe help. But either way, Fox portion's done. We're going on to USA, or NBC and USA now, even though the first 2 races, Iowa and New Hampshire on USA Network. We're going right into that. Normally there's a break, but with the Olympics there is no break in between Fox and NBC. So, next week is Iowa, then you have New Hampshire, and then the first race on NBC is Nashville. So, Iowa next week, I'm very excited for that. Iowa is exciting with Xfinity cars. I don't know why we're not doing trucks there. I don't get that one. But Iowa's always been good with Xfinity and with trucks, so we'll see how that is. Of course, a few years ago with Cup cars have been exciting. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting race. As we've seen, again, short track's not what has fit the next-gen car, but I do think that it will be decent. It could have a similar vibe to Richmond, so we'll see. Again, I want to hold out judgment of Iowa for Cup cars specifically until next-gen car maybe works a little bit better, but definitely excited for the Xfinity race on Saturday. And then, of course, 2 weeks is New Hampshire, which I'm really excited about. So, we'll see you guys in the next one, though. Next week, we will be breaking down Iowa. Only race, F1's off. Spanish Grand Prix in 2 weeks. So, with that, we'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys go to epiccw.net. We have updated point standings there from all the racing. And awesome EpicCW merch. I mean, we got some hats. You want epiccw.net hat right there. We got some shirts. New EpicCW racing shirts. You're interested in seeing some of the racing that we do on this channel. We got some merch on that. So go to epiccw.net and check out what we have there. And with that, see you guys in the next one.